Any tips for this wicket?
From one proud prime ministerial rite of passage to another less proud tradition.
Pork barrelling is just out of control.
New stats from The Age and Sydney Morning Herald showing if there was an Ashes for pork barrelling, the Morrison government would be on track for a whitewash.
This is just a disgrace. $4 has gone to coalition electorates for every dollar that has gone to a Labor electorate.
Well, it's a predictively selective analysis of 11 programs out of 1,700, so I think people can form their own judgments about that.
The analysis is focused purely on grants handed out at the government's discretion, 19,000 of them in total, of which $1.9 billion worth went to coalition seats and just $530 million to Labor seats over 3 years.
In my electorate of Grainler has received $700,000 at the same time as the electorate just next door, Reid, has received $15 million.
Across the country, it's a tale of two treatments. Tassie's key Liberal seat of Braddon scored $83 million in grants. That's over $1,000 per voter. The nearby Labor seat of Franklin, $38 per voter. In Queensland, Labor's electorate of Lilly received about $900,000. Next door, in Peter Dutton's seat of Dixon, $43 million.
Well, Dixon must have a very good local member. They have a great local member.
Drought-affected and regional electorates were the biggest winners, which few would begrudge, but also enjoying the spoils some of the country's wealthiest electorates, like Sydney's Wentworth and Warringah, both key seats for the government.
When we commit to support local community organisations, when we make that commitment, Australians know that we'll keep it.
So, will voters be bowled over by the government's generosity? Or will they pick the wrong one?
Oh, the cricket. Yeah.
The Age and Sydney Morning Herald's Shane Wright is one half of the team that broke this story. Shane, there's no doubt that this is a bad look, but the government hasn't actually done anything illegal, right?
Well, it depends what your definition of illegal is, I suppose. In this case, like, they've set up a program which is to fund government election promises. So you can make rules that make just about anything legal. But when it comes to the use of public monies and channeling them into particular electorates, then perhaps we get into that grey area of maybe what should be done and what is done. There are really different answers to those sort of questions.
Shane, I know you and the team spent 2 months staring at spreadsheets and maps, and for that you probably deserve some kind of award. But the PM basically walked all over your work and said it was selective. You didn't include grants like the NDIS, health, aged care. Does he have a point?
No. And I'll tell you why. Like, one of their key arguments is that it's selective. We chose ones where the ministers of the day have full discretion. We're not talking about grants that are government business of the day. And that's the key finding from the work that Katina and I did, is that depending on which seat you are and whether it's marginal or a safe Labor seat or one that's the Liberal Party's fearful of losing to an independent, really does go to how much money and what sort of programs you're going to get.
Shane, I suspect the Prime Minister would care if voters care. So how do you actually get them to do that when it's just lots of little grants, a coffee pod machine here or an air conditioning unit there? It's hard. Is it hard to get voters to find that hook?
I think voters are becoming much more cynical, and it goes to the question of trust. If you're in those electorates that get the money and get in a lot of cases, it might be netball courts, Liz, or it might be, for Peter, it might be a football club, because 5 football clubs got the biggest grants that went around. That might sway them, but where you have to think the people in the other electorates. Governments aren't elected just to represent the people in their own seats. They're elected to represent all Australians. I think about this as taxpayers' money, as my money. And you should be spending money in the best possible way. Just because you live on the wrong side of Parramatta Road or the Maroondah Highway does not mean that you should get different services or different quality of services.
So, Shane, is the lesson for voters, forget party loyalty. If you want things done, treat them mean, keep them keen.
Pete, are you coming on to me right there? I think that...
It always ends up being a bit of a flirt fest.
I'm so sorry about this, Shane. I have actually spoken to HR about Pete.
That's all right. I just completed our EEO training, so I'm fully aware of my rights with dealing with Pete Hillier. But in all seriousness, look, this is one of the arguments that independents do run, saying that if you make a seat marginal, then the electorate, then the government in office, and it happens on both sides, will throw money at you. And we look at, say, the seat of Warringah, where Zali Steggall managed to take down Tony Abbott at the last election. It got $24 million in assistance, while its nearby safe Liberal seats got only $3 or $4 million. So the argument that the independents put clearly does resonate with governments.
Shane, thanks so much for your time.
Not a trouble, guys. Have a good one.